Hey everyone, what's up? Cooking burgers right now. This was my 4-year-old girl's birthday today. This is Hannah's birthday, and this was her requested dinner. It was cheeseburgers, favorite food. Not gonna complain. I put up a Instagram post that just asked everybody to submit throwing technique questions. So let's just get right into them. Shut up, bird. All right, Dan Tennyson, who honestly probably needs no technique advice from me, but we'll give it a shot. He says, in the weights for distance, when you land in double support after your cast, what is the number one thing you're focusing on heading into or during your sprint to the front? I think the general feel has to be from any thrower that you have to get moving, you have to create speed, you have to create push. For me, most times, I'm thinking about settling, which means it can mean for a lot of things to different people, but I'm thinking about sinking, I'm thinking about landing with soft knees and hips, and then immediately creating drive. There are different philosophies on how to do that. It depends on your particular throwing style. I've been working on pushing the left shoulder, driving the left side while remaining tight in the back. That's, without everything getting kind of loosey-goosey or, dropping the right or anything like that. I've been trying to land, stay tight, drive the left side. The way that I used to throw, sometimes still do when I have to be a little more safe, and a lot of guys throws, they talk about the push on the right. So it's the same thing though, you're getting the same results, just different cue. You're landing, you're sinking, you're being stable, you're getting a drive off that right and pushing with the right hip and pushing with the right hand. It's almost like a forehand in tennis is a good way to describe it. But either way, you're landing, making sure that you sink, that you don't completely blow through the position. With the 56 or the 42, it's a little easier to feel that. The window's a little larger, but with the 28, it's a real small window and it's really easy to tap dance through that portion on the 28. But it's important there has to be a little bit of a landing where you're softening the knees and the hips so you can start again to transfer power. If you stay straight-legged, you just tap dance through it, you're not going to be transferring power, you're not going to be moving to the implement, you're probably going to miss the timing. Ulf Hednar asking, having issues where I'm leaving all my wob attempts in front of the bar, my weight over bar attempts in front of the bar. Yeah, so Ulf, your release is usually only as good as the path of the implement. A lot of times when people are complaining about their release, it's not truly their release, because if the path of the implement is headed the right way, your release is just kind of an after effect. You're following the path of the weight that you created at the bottom. So probably what you need to check is that you might have just a huge amplitude. By that I mean you might just be swinging the weight way too big, and by the time you're swinging way big, going all the way back and coming all the way forward, you're all the way, like the weight's pulling you forward already like this. So your release is automatically, because so much momentum is going that way instead of going up, that your release is like this, that you're out front like this. And you might have to see, you'll see on some of my wob throws, when that happens, I get too much lateral push, my release ends up looking like this. Because I've released all the energy up here and I'm trying to manufacture something with my arm like this, where it should be a finish high. Make sure your timing is good out of the bottom. I can't say enough about Josh Goldthorpe's water bottle drill. It teaches you the timing because it teaches you to come in high between the legs and go out low, and that teaches you to kind of like drop and then rise again with the weight. So that's what I would work on first and foremost. CT Donovan says, does it make sense to move to Europe to not have to throw the sheaf? No, sheaf is awesome, man. It's like the one event that we do that the crowd can actually understand. Can a rotational style work instead of a pure left arm block where the block is in the leg? Too much baseball and golf has me twisting a bunch. I've seen Scott Farr discuss that and he thinks the block is in the left leg. Okay, so you're gonna see, when we're taking spinning sheaf out of the equation, because that's black magic, but when we're talking about different ways of throwing the sheaf, I've seen two ways. In my experience, there's the kind of people who block hard on the left, fork stops anywhere from here up to here usually, like shoulder level all the way up to head level, but they're blocking hard like this, and the feeling is that they're blocking in their left arm. Now, the block is actually in the entire left side of your body. People just feel it in the arm. So Scott's not wrong if that's what you say, saying, yeah, the block is in the left leg. The block is coming through, it's your left leg and your hip. It's the same thing, you're rotating through. What Scott does is that he rotates his right leg a little bit more into it, almost like a stone throw or a weight throw. He turns that right, which is a fantastic way to do it. But the difference in styles that you're gonna see is you're gonna see that hard block, or you're gonna see people that do what I call ripping it. They'll come through and they'll finish all the way like this. And that's what you're probably thinking is a rotational style. The guys who can get away with that style, the ripping it all the way through, are very, very strong. They're strength throwers almost. Now, Scott's a strange example. He's a little bit of both. He's got great technique, but you got to remember, Scott's got a 700-pound deadlift. So the ability to take a 16 or 20-pound bag and to be able to create force all the way through here to the point where you can follow through effectively, it takes a lot of force and it takes a lot of strength. There's a lot of pros like Spencer and Matt. They block hard on the left side because they create so much power with their hip explosion. And I found that guys that are a little more explosive or that depend a little more on technique tend to just have that harder block style. I tend to block it by my head here. People that have a harder block, they're using gravity, they're using the momentum of the bag. So they're coming up and then you ride it down. They're riding the bag down to create what's called a check mark or swoop, whatever you want to call it. They're riding the bag down to create that speed, and then they're turning that speed upwards with hip explosion. So it's two different styles. Mess with both. I've had a lot more success. I've never been able to rip the bag very well. I'm not very strong. But yeah, I mean, try out everything. Another sheaf question. Osoto Gary IJJ says, keep hooking my sheaf tosses. How do you keep them flying high and over the bar without a wicked hook? I hit the post most of the time. It goes back to what I was just talking about. Make sure that you are riding the bag down on the right, that your low point is at least somewhere near your right foot instead of all the way over here. So if the low point is over on this side and you're applying force then, two things can happen. It's going to fly off that way. Or if you hold on and you compensate enough by usually pulling this arm up like this, the bag's going to hook and go back that way. Probably the biggest part of people hooking, especially when they're newer, is that they tend to open their left shoulder too early to finish. A lot of people say, don't look at the bag. And that's like a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. There's going to be time to look at the bag. You can do it. But a lot of it is that people, instead of hitting a block here, instead of feeling that block on their left side, left arm, left hip, left leg, instead of feeling all that, they turn like this. It's not just the head looking at the bag, it's that the shoulder's opening like this. And in the act of doing that, before the bag's left the fork, they're turning like this and keeping the bag on the fork. They're kind of allowing the fork to ride with the bag for longer than it should. So hit your block, feel it pop off, and then you can turn and look. That's not the biggest deal, but it's a good thing early on to train yourself not to watch it come off the bag. You see a lot of guys, like me included, we go through the whole sheaf with our head down and then pop like that, and never really, almost like an Olympic lifting position where we're kind of pulling the chin in like that, maybe a little more exaggerated, but we're keeping our chin in and making sure our neck doesn't crane or anything like that. Better transfer of power that way. All right, these are looking good. All right, Manic Variable says, I can't seem to quit reversing on my stones. Anything I can do to end this? All right, first one is pretty obvious. Just stop. I mean, I don't know what else to say that's more obvious than that. There are some more subtle things I'm going to get into, but just stop. Tell yourself to not reverse. It's a hugely useful skill to have, is to be able to do non-reverse throws. It's one of the best fix-alls I've seen for people that are having throwing problems, that are not hitting double support, that are not getting a good push on the stone. Just learn to do it. First, master the toes to board throw. I start every session with a toes to board throw and what I call a quarter step back throw, where I just take my right foot, the stone side, and I put it basically my toes even with my heel and throw from there. But I start with the toes to board. So that will be a good step. The quarter step teaches you that too. It gives you a little bit of the ability to make your right side transit, make it move a little bit. But it still doesn't get you in that position where you're just going to feel like you have to jump. The last one is start working on 1-2 drills. Dan McKim is the first person I saw do these, and I stole them from him, and I teach them to everybody. It's a standing throw drill where you're stepping out and you're turning your right foot and hip. More important that you turn the knee in and get the hip activated than you really grind that right foot. Everybody worries about squashing the bug or grinding the right. That's a consequence. That's something that happens when your right hip is loaded and your knee is pointing in and you're going towards the sector. But it's a turn, throw. It's 1, 2. They're very distinct. There's a 1, pause, 2. And it's really hard to reverse when you do that because you take away that springiness out of the back, that stretch reflex. So work on those things to stop reversing. But seriously, do non-reverse throws if you're having trouble on your stones, especially at the front. All right, Spraggins asks, are my high points and low points the same with the 28, the 42, and the 56? Yes and no. In terms of actual elevation, absolutely not. The 56, there are probably guys, and there are guys, actually I know this, that have roughly the same cast height for the 56 as they do for the 28. I'm not strong enough, I don't weigh enough to counter that thing coming down from head level down to the ground, so it messes me up. It's going to be lower in elevation. I tend to cast in the 56 no higher than my chin. I mean, that's what I'm shooting for. I'll create the lift at the end as I need, but anything beyond that, I'm asking for trouble. Maybe I need to be a better thrower, but that's how it works. 42, a little bit higher. 42 and the 28, I throw very similarly. Now, where they are in the rotation, like on the clock face, yes, I'm aiming for those to be in the same place every time. The only thing that changes is my timing and my speed. The timing, the window for when you have to hit that drive to the front and then hit it again for the finish, those are a little different. Landing position and open stone is a question from Wayne Cross. Landing position and open stone. The biggest thing to think about for the finish for a lot of people that they miss, and I'm working with a couple of throwers on this right now, is you have to get yourself and the stone and the side you're delivering with your right side over the toe board out to deliver. You have to get them out there. And consequences be damned sometimes. You have to just foul for a little while to do that. Like I talked about, using the toes to board is great because it teaches you to step over, and you have to get your right side out to be able to do anything. You have to open up with the left, you have to have your chest open, you have to push out over the right.
That smells good outside.
It does smell good, doesn't it? That's the burgers cooking. All right, Ben Stamps asks, says, I have a hard time leading with my hips and turning my right foot on the stone.
It's so hard to do.
What can I do to remedy that? Again, I think people overemphasize the turning of the right foot. It's a very difficult thing. We see high-level throwers do that. We see the good guys doing that they're just on their right foot like a ballerina. That comes from repetition in the standing throw and whatever type of other throws that you're doing. That comes from the repetition of getting your right hip and knee into the throw. Is thinking of actively pushing through that side of your body and pushing that out into the sector where you're throwing. That's where that right foot comes from. Now, do you want to work on that in particular of landing on the ball of your foot and rotating? Yes, you do. But you have to think about other things too. A lot of people turn that right foot. This is a baseball thing too. This is a hitting thing in baseball. A lot of people squash that bug and turn the right, but they don't actually get any push through their right side. They don't actually rotate the hips, open the gate in baseball parlance. They don't open the gate, so to speak, and that's what we have to do in the stone. So start thinking about it differently. Again, 1-2 drills. Those are fantastic. Master the standing throw. Get really good at the standing throw so that position is so natural to you that everything else is just a rolling start to get there. It's not a big deal to get there anymore. Yeah. Bert asks, how can I get beach-worthy hair and how can I keep it manageable and looking good all day while throwing? Pick better parents, buddy. Neil Worden asks, cues for leaning back, what cues help with leaning back enough in hammer? Okay, 2 things, and Sully actually addressed this on there. Don't lean back, think about reaching higher. Push your knees and your hips forward while reaching higher. That's what's gonna make it happen. Higher is not gonna end up being higher when you have 16 or 22 pounds rotating around you. What's gonna happen is you're gonna end up reaching back as your body gets pulled by that weight. So reach higher with your hands. Think about getting your hands to the sky and your knees and your hips forward. Shut up. That dog's 4 times your size, 10 times your size. You're gonna do nothing. He's so much bigger than you. Boys, come on. Stop. That lay back position that you see so many good throwers in, so many good hammer throwers like Sully, you see them in, you have to just go for it. Get those couple of things in your mind, the hands high, the knees and hips forward, and just go for it. If you don't have soft hips or knees, if you're still stiff, you can't do any of these things. But at some point, just accelerate that hammer back faster, try to lean back and go for it, and just fall down. All right, folks, these burgers are done. I'm gonna go in and have birthday dinner with my little girl. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for the support. Like, subscribe, please share this stuff. I don't know where all the buttons are, like always. You guys can see them, so push them. Again, appreciate all the questions, the participation. Off season's coming up. If you can, I hope some of this stuff you can put into play in your off season throwing. Everybody comes back dropping bombs. Thanks.